Aslı from Endeavor Turkey. Joining me on stage as my local case study is Ömer Akarca. He's been angel investing in Turkey for almost 10 years. So I think together we've seen sort of the ecosystem go from almost non-existent to quite vibrant today. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And Ömer's day job, he's a farmer. So I think you can start by telling us a little bit about how did you get into investing, and we'll go from there.
So this is going to be our funny story. Okay.
Yes. Oh, sorry. So while we were waiting, he's like, you have to start with a funny story. He's like, I don't have a funny story. He's like, think about one. So I couldn't. So here's to you. Start with the funny story.
Okay. So first of all, I'm from Galata Business Angels, and actually I've been investing since 2010. So it's like 7 years now. The thing is, well, I'm a farmer. We have a farm. I'm the 4th generation member, so it's like a very old farm from 1911. So that's like a family business side thing. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and I studied MBA in Chicago, like all the engineers do in Turkey, because we don't know what to do, because like being an engineer in Turkey is like being a glorified technician. So, and I was having my MBA in Chicago, in University of Illinois at Chicago, and I was like, what am I going to do here? Like, it's nice. And then I learned that they have this entrepreneurship program, and apparently they were one of the top 10 in the States. I was like, well, this sounds like a good idea. I mean, this might work in Turkey. But I found out that actually it was my thing, because in America you can express yourself much better. So I was like, I found my calling. And I did a little bit entrepreneurial consulting. That was nice. I learned to love entrepreneurs, which works really good for me while I'm doing angel investing. I had a little bit of startup experience around 2007, right before the big bust or crazy things happen. I always tell people that it was like a financial services thing, but it was more like a early fintech when I think about it. I came back here. I didn't know what to do. I started doing a little bit farming because, I'm an engineer, did some kind of entrepreneurial thing. And my parents were like, hey, why don't you manage the farm? Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, let's manage the farm. Although it's a very big farm and it's like super nice. It's by the sea, so I'm just exaggerating a little bit. Huh? Farmwell?
Farmville, yeah.
Farmwell.
His farms are actually virtual on Facebook.
Yeah, actually, it's like it's in my mind. It's just like imaginary thing. And I would like to introduce Bob here, my imaginary friend.
Hold on, let me manage my farm.
So anyhow, I started investing in 2010, and I'm with the Galata Business Angels since 2011, right before we formed the group, and 2012 we became a full angel investment network. I think I've done like 13 investments up to date, but it could be 12.
13.
Sometimes.
So, fun fact, since 2010, there has been 253 companies funded in Turkey, both angel and VC. So you're actually invested in 5% of the whole Turkish portfolio.
I was in 5% of the Turkish portfolio, I would say. So yeah, that's my story.
Great. And so we talked a lot about, both of the speakers talked about syndication. Yes. So I think the easiest way to be part of a syndicate is to be part of an angel investment group,
definitely,
right?
Yeah.
So is anybody here part of an angel investing network? Great, not many. Is anybody thinking about joining one? Okay, great. So you need to tell these people, is it a good idea to join one? And how do you choose the one you're going to join?
Well, it's a great idea. I think you should definitely be in an angel investment network. Because you cannot know anything. Yeah, you cannot know, you cannot always know anything, but you cannot know everything. So the thing is, time to time you'll encounter investment opportunities, startups, projects that you really like the idea but cannot verify whether it's solid or it's just it's BS. So when you're in a diversified angel investment group, you can just ask around. But it's like, it sounds like obvious thing. You're like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But the good thing is you can invest in the sectors that you know nothing about, and because you're in now, and even that company fails, then now you are like somewhat knowledgeable, so it increases your range, and that's a really good thing, especially in Turkey.
Especially in Turkey, because
Yeah.
rarely will you find a big deal flow in one single vertical. So if you say, I'm only investing in fintech, you won't be
Yes.
able to do that many deals, right? So
Yes.
it's maybe a good idea to do a little bit of a more diversified portfolio.
Definitely.
And invest with people who you trust so that you rely on their expertise but also learn
Yes.
yourself. So when he said to me, you have to tell a funny story, I said, you tell a funny story.
You need a
And he
funny
said, I
story.
only have horror stories from my investments, so tragic stories. But when enough time passes, everything is funny, right?
No, I mean,
Tragedy becomes comedy.
Yeah, it's still horror for me, but it will be funny for you because.
So we'll get to your happy endings in a little bit. But can
Okay.
you talk a little bit about your horror stories? What happened? What were you thinking?
I really don't know. I mean, I trusted some people. That's generally the case. You trust some people, and I almost got conned by the Swiss. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, like you can get conned in Turkey. This like Turkey, like you have to be watchful. But Swiss, I mean, they should be like solid. But you know, it happens. So I got a lesson that people are people everywhere. In Switzerland, they cannot do much, but when they come to Turkey, they bloomed, so to speak. So, I mean, and also not only that, I'm really, because sometimes you do stuff without knowing the consequences, what that could be, because you don't know, you really don't know what could happen when you're at the beginning of the angel investment, when you start just the angel investing just recently. So, for example, the good thing for me was that I didn't invest I loaned the money, although it's evaporated, but the good thing was, like, if I had invested in it, I could have been charged in the courts with a fraud or like advanced fraud. No, I mean like they got the credit cards of the people, they didn't give the service, and they needed a license, some crazy thing like that. I could have ended in jail between 8 to 20 years. Can you imagine that? It's like, I mean, like you're just trying to invest with all the good feelings inside you, not just money, but all the warm and fuzzy feelings, and you might end up in a prison. That's really, and then when I think about that, I was like, well, since I'm okay with that kind of a scary experience, and I still think that I still want to invest in, then I think, I'm cut out for this, like
Yeah,
I'm a poor angel
how
investor.
did you learn to trust people again?
I don't trust people. No, it's like when you're in an angel investment network, it's much easier. You have much more opportunities and tools for due diligence. And when you're like, encounter or approached by a potential startup, and when they see that you're a unified front, even if they think or ideas of acting funny at some point, they generally refrain themselves. But recently, we just discussed this like 10 days ago, literally, because this was like our monthly meeting. There's a recent trend in Turkey, apparently. For example, if a company isn't doing that well, it's just like growing flat or like growing very little, and apparently if it's not going anywhere, we tend to give our shares back without any fee or anything. We just give them back for free so that we won't be liable for any future debt thing might be happening or any fines, government fines or whatnot.
So
but
you don't
we recently
deal with like any liquidation or anything?
yeah,
Just like,
but
here
we
you go.
recently found out that some founders, and if the things are not going not that well, they kind of start sabotaging their own startup, so that we could give the shares back, so that they could just retool it or change it a little bit and come back to the market and look for more investors with 100% or like a 90% share with equity. So this is like a recent trend. So you need to be always watchful for ingenuity, especially in Turkey. In Europe, in America, it's not that common because everything is settled. But here, it's like the Wild West. It's like the frontier land.
But do you think, so yes, it is the frontier land, but since you've started investing, Do you think the whole ecosystem and the community as a whole embrace some of the the universal values? And also, reputation matters, right? So I think I'm seeing in Turkey that maybe 7 years ago people didn't think it was going to matter as much, but now I think a lot of what's keeping people from conning each other or lying to each other is their reputation. So are you seeing this, and do you think that's a positive trend?
Oh yeah, I mean it's much better nowadays. I mean your name matters. I mean you can pull this thing with the investors once, and then you're blacklisted. You can't do anything ever in Turkey because it's a small community at the end, and we see each other in events like these, and we talk. They say, hey, what's up? And I say, well, this guy does stuff like that, and be careful, be watchful. So it's like I was told by I was in some political thing, and it's like totally unrelated with angel investing. And apparently there's this power of gossip, especially in places like Turkey. So it creates some kind of a social trust. So people gossip if something bad happens. So that's why in smaller, like small towns, your reputation matters. And when something is done to you or you do something, then you're like banned or excluded from all the things. So it's like that. There's a big power of gossip. And we utilize that, and it can be utilized perfectly, not maybe perfectly, but quite powerfully in other places, other countries as well, I think.
I think it's also important because I think we have entrepreneurs in the audience as well. So during the process of fundraising, like even though the angels that you're talking to may be competitors, they're actually quite close and they all speak to each other. So make sure that what you tell one person is consistent with what you tell another person, because when they speak, and I've seen this happen actually, when they speak to each other, they'll figure out the inconsistencies. And also, and I'm sure this is the same in Silicon Valley as well, because that is also a very small community, but in time, everyone knows everything about your deal. So your valuation, your percentage, like somehow it'll all come out. So don't ever think that it's going to be, hush-hush, I would say. So talking about competition, right now, how competitive is it out there?
I mean, there are like other angel investors, angel investment networks. I really don't consider them as competitors because I think it's counterproductive. I mean, not all the angels think that way, but this is how to build an ecosystem. For example, if I happen to like an entrepreneur or like a project owner, and after listening to them, I say like, I would love to invest in you. I always do this. I would love to invest in you, but I think these angels from this network might be a better investor for you, might be a better mentor for this sector, because I know I may not know enough. So it's just like it's like this growing thing. I mean, if we compete against each other, it's not productive for us, angels, and it's all. I mean, it's good for the entrepreneurs, but in the short term, they may get better deals, but in the long run, they'll have like a worse angel investors for them. So, that's. I mean, like not exactly answer that you might be looking for. Maybe,
so what about the quality of the deal flow? Do you think it's getting better?
Oh, it's getting fantastic. Literally, that's like literally. I mean, I really don't like to use like these big words like fantastic because they sometimes use it. But this is like it's fantastic. I mean, like, and it's a gradual change. I mean, it's like when you look at the mirror, you don't notice that you're aging, but like one morning you wake up and you look at the mirror, you're like, oh fuck, frack that I'm old or I'm getting old or whatever. So it's like that. Like at the beginning, maybe we get like good deals, 3 or 4 deals every year. So we listen to 4 to 5 startups every month. So it's like 6 out of 64. Now it turned into one every month. Now it's like almost always every month we listen to really great deals. And not only that, in Istanbul, deals are generally on the like software and service side, and you rarely ever found like decent hardware projects or healthcare or biotech. I was in Ankara, bless you. I was in Ankara, and there was Tech Ankara. It's like a European Union project or something about like mentorship. And the projects there, I mean, while I was there, I was listening to them. I was like, am I in Tel Aviv? It's like this kind of like, do we have this kind of cutting-edge technology startups? And it's like amazing what's being done, and we're definitely going forward. We have some issues getting the like investments and funds. Obviously, it's like neighbors, and everything is a little bit not good right now. But the projects are very very promising, in my opinion.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean the data also says that the all stage of investing is growing every year. I mean, maybe not by 100%, but there's definitely growth. So it's good news for us.
I think data for that.
So, so the Swiss thing was, okay, it was a terrible, terrible experience. But what about, can you tell us a little bit about a deal that you went in with your friends, all with good intentions, and with good intentions, it just didn't work out? What happens when things don't work out? But the entrepreneur clearly isn't like doing anything illegal. So how do you separate? What's sort of the, because we didn't really talk about, well, a little bit about the post-investment relationship, right? So getting the deal is one thing, and you have to be obviously a credible angel investor. You want to have the entrepreneurs, they want, that they would want you to invest in them. What about, so the investment happens, and can you give us an example of a company that just didn't do well? And what happened? Like, was it tense? How did you handle that? How did the entrepreneurs handle that? And what's your thinking that 90% of all of our investments are going to fail? I think we need to know a little bit about how to behave in this situation.
The thing is that that's okay. I mean, these things happen. I mean, we try our best to be good mentors, to be good investors. So it's like it's just not giving money. It's just like part of it. Like I think even a small part of it. It's angel investing is much bigger than that. And if the entrepreneurs are doing their best, and you see them doing their best, sometimes or most of the time it doesn't work out. It's life. We shake hands and we part amicably. And the thing is, I really like investing in the entrepreneurs who had previous startups which failed, and especially if they had learned from that lesson. That's a major, I mean, that's like a deal breaker for me. I was like, okay, let's do it, because they already did some stuff. They know the beginning and they know the middle. They may not know the later part of the story, but let's do it again. So that's normal.
Great. So find the ones that failed once. Now, and I want to end with the reason why we shouldn't feel bad about Ömer.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
One of his investments, right? So let's talk about that one. Let's talk about the winner, okay? Let's talk about the winner. So who here has heard of Insider? Insider is a Turkish company. We're very proud of them. They're also an endeavor entrepreneur, so we're doubly proud of them. Yeah. They are in the marketing technology space. You can take a look at what they do. But they're in almost 10 countries right now. Yeah,
10, 12.
10, 12 countries. Well. This was an investment Ömer made in 2012?
Yeah, July.
July 2012. Yeah.
When it works out, you always remember the date that you did the investment.
Look at you.
That's good.
And if based on sort of like the current valuations and everything, I think you're almost at 34 times your initial investment.
Yeah, in US dollar terms. In Turkish lira, it's crazy. It's like, it's like 90. Wow.
So that's great. That's can you talk a little bit about that journey? Was it a deal that you knew a lot about, or was it your friends that knew more about it, so you sort of like went along with them, and what did you learn along the process?
Actually, I mean, the idea itself, I really don't think about it. It was a team. I mean, we met the team before in another pitch, and we knew that they were like tremendous. I mean, like, there are some teams here in Turkey. I mean, when I look at them, I could see that if they had born in the States, they could have, founded a unicorn. I mean, they were so good. So it was a slam dunk because I know in my heart that if that idea or that angle wouldn't work, they would pivot it to something else or pivot and keep pivoting. So I felt that it was a slam dunk. I just didn't know when it was going to happen, or like when I was going to, have an exit. It was going to be in 3 years' time, or 7 years' time, or was going to be like 5x, 10x, 20x. Although I didn't imagine that it's going to be like 34x. So it was kind of a sort of slam dunk. I always look at the team. Like it's the most, because I've seen teams with like super CVs from from the top 10 universities, Ivy League universities, Turkish guys. And the guys, like in Turkey that we say, like the kind of guys, if you had a daughter, you would give their hand in marriage, that kind of guy. They were that good. But apparently they would.
If they were women, would you give your son the same way you're giving your daughter? Let's talk about that.
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And the thing is, they were cut out for corporate jobs. They were smart, but they weren't cut out for this thing. So that's the important thing. Look at the team. I mean, like I would, it would be nice. It would be a bonus if they had like a great idea, but good enough idea is, I think good enough. Because I have another investment on Knudsen, and we found them again around 2012 in Bilkent University, and they were students at that time, and they were perfect. They were like, it was like a love at first sight for me. And I generally, it's like a love at first sight or not, because I'm just a warm, fuzzy, emotional guy that, I'm an engineer, I'm a Capricorn, but I don't look at those deals. I stopped looking at them like a logical, like a spreadsheets, Excels. So it's like that feeling, like gut feeling, they say in the States. So it's that kind of feeling. So like, watch out for them. They are going to be much bigger. The things they are doing is amazing. So it's the team. It's like the journey. You know that the journey, it's going to end somewhere if there's not a major hiccup. Great. You don't know where, you don't know when, but it's going to happen.
Excellent. I think this is a great message to end on. So we find great teams, big markets that. And
I would like to say something. I mean, it's like this angel investing is like having a football team, or like there are different tactics. This is what I love to do. This is what I'm good at interpreting. You may be comfortable in doing it another way. If it works for you, it works. So this is my experience. This is how I wouldn't say how I succeed, but how I picked out, the good ones. Because like my average is like, I think out of like every 10 investments, I'm like at the, so I'm 35%, so I'm above average. Like 1 or 2, startups become successful. Now I'm at 3.5. Don't ask to have one. It will be hard to explain. So whatever works for you, You listen to, really nice presentations. Take something, it's just like a muscle. Angel investing is more like a muscle. You try and you learn what's working for you and what's not working. So it's a journey in itself also. Like startups have their own journey. We have our own journey. So yeah, that's the thing. This worked for me, and I'm happy doing it.
So please, a round of applause for Ömer. Yeah. And join me in wishing him many, many more 30, 40, 50x
20 plus X exits, please.
I think I am giving it over to Amal.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. That was quite entertaining and educational as well. Thank you so much, sir. All right.